This one really hurts to admit, but unfortunately, it's true. The United Kingdom is no longer one of the globally respected powerhouses it once was, and this has now affected the strength of the British pound. Hello future investors and welcome back to another weekly episode. Now let's face it, a recession could well be here. Inflation is at 7.9% and the cost of living crisis is very, very prominent as we know it. Now, mortgage rates are massively affecting this cost of living crisis. If you're someone that's coming up to renew your mortgage rate, you'll find that you're going to have a lot less income in the month. Now, this doesn't help that in the last few years, the pound has been relatively weak against the dollar. Now, that's great for precious metals, but as a saver, as a citizen of the United Kingdom, what does that mean for your finances and the capital that you're trying to save and invest? Well, as we know, central banks' digital currencies are on their way, and the government is definitely very keen to try and withdraw that fiat cash from people's spending and make everything contactless. Now, the thing is, with the British pound, historically, it was very strong. The British Empire back in the day was one of the, if not the most respected global countries in the world. However, that is not the case now. The pound has been historically weak against the dollar, although at the moment it is starting to look slightly better and pull back. It's not as to the strength as it once was. Inflation being at 7.9%, you could also say is down from the 11.7% last year in October. So on paper, the inflation and the cost of living crisis is starting to ease. But the issue you've got is that the pound probably will never pull back to the strength that it once was in the late 50s and 60s. So what does that mean for your precious metals and your gold bullion? Well, for this particular topic, I'm going to leave out silver as it's really known as maybe a bit more of an investment precious metal, whereas we know gold is particularly a preservation device for protecting your capital. Now, in my opinion, the pound is not looking great, although the analytics say that the inflation and the cost of living crisis is starting to pull back. I still don't feel comfortable keeping my cash in the bank account, leaving it to rot away against those inflation figures. I think gold right now is a really important time to buy, and as stated in the title, is it a time to panic buy gold bullion? Well, I don't think you should really panic buy. I think you should always try and keep your emotions out of investing and try and stay level-headed to make those really wise financial decisions. Now, having said that, I think some good advice would be to try and dollar cost average your investments against the weakness of the British pound. And when it comes to investing in gold bullion, because it is such an expensive asset, even in the smaller fractional pieces, you're still looking at around £70 for a 1 gram gold bar. It's not as easy to dollar cost average, in my opinion, for gold on a regular basis compared to, say, investing in index funds, premium bonds and other low risk long-term investment assets. I don't necessarily think it's the death of the pound, but with the uncertainty going forward of central banking digital currencies coming in, that is really going to leave the pound on a bit of a knife's edge, because no one really knows how that is going to affect fiat currency. So yeah, I think now probably is a better time than ever to start investing your capital into gold bullion, because like I said, no one really knows where the pound is going to go, especially with CBDCs looking like they're coming in the next few years. So it's probably, in my opinion, not going to get any stronger. If anything, it's definitely going to get weaker. That's just my opinion, but when I look at what's to come, there's a lot more negatives for the pound than there is positives. So in my opinion, I think it's a very wise time now to try and get some of that capital invested into assets that either are going to pay you a passive income, like for example a buy-to-let property, which is relatively low in terms of being hands-on. You have minor things to deal with, or you can go completely hands-off and invest in a low-risk long-term hold like an index fund, maybe the S&P 500, a Vanguard or something like that. Or if you want completely hands-off and next to no risk for a really long-term investment, then gold is the asset for you, because as we know historically, gold has outperformed all of the currencies that have come and gone. And like I always say, a good way to predict the future is to look at the past. Currencies have come and gone, but gold bullion has always been around to stand the test of time. And it's quite ironic, really, that we've got a fair amount of gold bullion sitting on top of this cash here, because I feel like that's the way gold has always been. Gold has always represented the stronger asset and represented something more substantial, especially as a wealth preservation device. So rightly so, it does sit on top of cash. So yeah, I think it's a good time to actually sit down and really think about, should you pull that money out of the low interest bank account you've got maybe with your high street bank, and look at investing it at least in an index fund or some sort of low risk long-term asset, especially if you've got time on your side, or of course the best asset of all for wealth preservation, gold bullion. That's my opinion on this topic. I do think the pound is not in a great place, and I don't think it's going to recover much in the next few years. I don't see many benefits for it getting stronger. The only hope we've got is that inflation pulls back and wages do actually come up against inflation and sort of adjust that cost of living crisis. But having said that, I still think either way, it's wise to invest your capital into an asset that's going to protect your wealth over a period of time. So let me know what you think, and whether you think I'm right in the thoughts with the strength of the pound and how the future of it looks. A big shout out to the channel members for being premium future investors. I appreciate your support. And if you've watched all the way till the very end of this video, thank you very much for your time. It does mean a lot. Until next time, I'll see you all in the very next episode. Bye bye, guys.